Hello YouTube and welcome to Full Dottle, a channel dedicated to tamping topics such as pipes, tobacco, lore, and more. I am your host, the Bearded Briarman, and without further ado, let's get lit. Welcome back everyone, and on this episode of Full Dottle, we're going to be continuing on in our blending series for JoJo Piper. This is going to be FDOB blend number 3, version 3. But first, a little housekeeping. I am smoking my 7LE673 KS rusticated. This is the Fantasia. And in it, I've got some FDOB blend number 2, Arkansas Dream. It was named by Kilted Piper Steve. If you don't know who Kilted Piper Steve is, I will leave a link down in the bucket so that you can go directly over to his channel. He's got some great content on there. Take a look at his pipe cabinet. I am completely envious of it. He also just recently did a blending series with 2 blends, and I got the honor of naming one of those. Go check those out. Awesome stuff. We are going to continue on in this blending series. I have a feeling that it might go longer than 3 versions. We will find out, because I just don't know if the tweaks that we have made are going to put me where I want it to be at as far as the Red Virginia. I think that the Dark Kentucky might still be a little bit too high, but let's go ahead and blend this up and find out what we've got. I've got the GoPro ready, so join me on it and let's get this mixed. All right, everybody, so last week we decided that the Rustica needed to be toned down just a little bit, the Red Virginia needed to be increased, the Dark Fired Kentucky needed to be decreased, and the Samsung Turkish Oriental needed to be increased. I've got all the components here. Let's go ahead and blend this up and find out what we're gonna get. Here I've got the Dark Burley, and the Dark Burley is remaining at 20%, or 1.2 grams. I've got White Burley here. This is also going to be 1.2 grams or 20%. So total, we've got a Burley base of 40% here. The Red Virginia, we increased the Red Virginia to 16%. It was at 14%, so we added another 2% to it. I'm hoping to increase that tartness just a little bit. Give it a little bit more of that bready, tart, kind of earthy type flavors. There's 16% Red Virginia, or 0.96 grams. The Dark Fired Kentucky, we decreased to 16% from 18%, so we took 2% off of the Dark Fired Kentucky. That puts us at 16%, or 0.96 grams. That means that our Dark Fired Kentucky and our Red Virginia, as of right now, are both equally portioned. I don't know if that's gonna stand once we try this a little bit, taste it, see how it tastes. Last week, the Dark Fired Kentucky was just a little too high, in my opinion. That's why we decreased it 2%, and we'll see if that 2% is enough. The next one is the Rustica. The Rustica, we have 10%, or 0.6 grams. Last week, we decreased the Rustica. We were using 12%, so we decreased the Rustica by 2%. back down to 10%. So 0.6 grams on Rustica. And remember that Rustica has that very green flavor to it, a tartness kind of like cilantro or oregano, and it is very potent. The Rustica comes through, even though it's only 10%, it comes through very strong. However, I think the Rustica as it stands right now is pretty well portioned, so I don't know if we're going to be messing with that anymore. Next to last, we have the unsweetened Black Cavendish. We're putting 10% unsweetened Black Cavendish in there. That is going to be 0.6 grams. This is the same portion as the Rustica. The Black Cavendish didn't change at all for us. And then finally, we have our Samson. That's our Turkish Oriental. We have 8%, or 0.48 grams, and this is the one that's got the small leaf, very flaky, a very thin leaf. It's not a very robust leaf, so it appears to be a quite large portion, even though it's not. It's only 8%, or 0.48 grams, and that has been increased from last week. Last week we had 6%. This week we raised it 2% to 8% total, or 0.48 grams. And hopefully that will tone down just a little bit of that sweetness, add a little bit more of that tartness, and then maybe tone down just a little bit of that green tartness from the Rustica. See what that gets us. All right, so from last week, we're getting very close. I will steam hydrate this tobacco off camera, come back in a few days after it has equalized, the moisture level is equalized and all that stuff within the jar. I will review it to find out if there are any changes that need to be, that need to be made. It looked like last week the Rustica was just a little bit too high. I mean, the Rustica, yeah, it was just a little bit too high with those green tarty type flavors, that wild type flavor. And the dark-fired Kentucky gives this, for me, an unusual like mix between a licorice, cinnamon, and clove type sweetness. Not sure why it does that, for me anyway, but I was trying to tone that down just a little bit. So we're gonna test this out. We'll see what happens. Let me steam hydrate it off camera. I'll be back with you in just a few days to test it out, and we'll see where we go from there. Stick around, everybody. All right, so I've let the tobacco rest for a little while. This has been a couple of days since I steam hydrated it. And I've got the Meerschaum loaded up. This is my AKB Meerschaum. It's a Tekken. It is a tomato shape lattice finish. The jar note on this is still really heavy dark-fired Kentucky. I'm hoping that by taking that down a little bit, maybe we won't have to mess with it anymore. Hopefully this is a finished product, but let's light up and see what we get. Let's get lit. Man, that Rustica, that is some powerful stuff. All right, so it's a really tasty blend, but unfortunately, I'm just not where I want to be with it. I'm thinking it's that dark-fired Kentucky is just offering too much of that weird clove sweetness. As of right now, I've got it at 16%. And what I'm looking for, instead of having that sweet taste, that clove and cinnamon and allspice type sweetness from the dark fired Kentucky. I want to add something that is going to have more of an earthy, woody tone. I'm going to drop the dark fired Kentucky down 4%. 4 more percent. We're going to go from 16% down to 12% to tone down that sweetness. That unusual sweetness that's coming from the dark fired Kentucky. But dropping it down 4%, we're going to have to add that 4% somewhere else or substitute, because we still have to equal 6 grams. Remember, all of our micro blending is 6 grams to start out with. So all of our portions add up to 100% of 6 grams. Taking it down 4% in dark fired Kentucky, we have to either substitute in another component that is 4% or increase another component by 4%. And what I'm thinking about doing it really is tasty, but that sweetness is just not where I want it to be. So I'm going to take that 4% and I'm going to add an additional component. I'm going to go ahead and add some home stoved red Virginia, because home stoved bright Virginia is still going to have a little bit of sweetness. I don't want to add any more sweetness to this. All I'm really wanting to get is some of those darker, earthy, woody type flavors, bready notes. We can achieve that, I believe, with the home stoved red Virginia. So let's do that for now. Because that dark fired Kentucky's not doing it for me. Yeah, the dark fired Kentucky's not doing it for me. I think we're right where we need to be everywhere else. But this is going to get into version 4 apparently. We'll go ahead and decrease the dark fired Kentucky from 16% to 12%, and we're going to add in the addition of home stoved red Virginia to 4%. No, I'm going to go ahead and take 6% off of the dark fired Kentucky. We'll take it down to 10%. That will balance the dark fired Kentucky and the Rustica. and we will take the home stoved red Virginia to 6%. And I will see you next week to see what this does. Hopefully this isn't dragging too long for you guys. If there's any changes you'd like me to make in these videos to help maybe speed them up or something like that, if you're becoming bored with them, just let me know down in the comments. I've got tough skin. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. I'm doing this as my hobby, but for you as the audience. So if there's any changes you'd like to see or any suggestions, go ahead and drop them down in the comments. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Full Dottle. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and until the next time we see each other, I bid you farewell and happy piping. Bye, everyone. Don't forget to enlist in the Full Dottle platoon. It's easy. Just click the subscribe button. Also, hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as I upload the next episode.